everybody. Welcome to our webinar series, specifically for brands and learning how to work with influencers. My name is Abby Rodriguez. I'm the founder and CEO of Tastemaker Conference. And this webinar series for brands is a quarterly series, and sometimes we even pop in extra things there. But this specific episode is Beyond Q4, How and Why to Build Influencer Partnerships That Last. So a quick reminder that before we start this, this is specifically intended to help brands learn how to better work with influencers. And while we love our creator, blogger, influencer community here, and you're certainly welcome, this is particularly tailored for brands, companies, anybody who is wanting to learn more about their influencer marketing initiatives, or maybe you already have one, but you want that real-time insight from key influencers that we have in our Tastemaker community. So we're super excited for that. But as a blogger or anybody else, we have our Tastemaker Talk. That's a wonderful episode, and that takes place in our Tastemaker Collaborative, and our next one's on November 20th. And that one's going to be talking about, branding and working with brands. So stay tuned for all those educational resources. So today we have Britney Borwn Chamberlain and LaKita Anderson joining us as our influencer experts. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Britney, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Britney Borwn Chamberlain, and I am a food blogger, cookbook author of the book Bake Until Golden Brown, which is officially released today, and content creator. I run the blog Britney Breaks Bread, where I share comfort food with an approachable twist, as well as decadent recipes for bakers of any skill level.
So your book released today?
Today is pub day. Yes.
Yay! Special shout out to you. That is so much work. So huge congratulations.
Thank you. It was truly a labor of love.
Yes, I understand. I have a cookbook as well, and wow. So congrats. I can't wait to get my copy.
Thank you.
All right, LaKita, we'd love to welcome you and hear from you.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having me. I'm LaKita Anderson, and I have a food blog called Simply LaKita, where we share modern comfort food. So think your comfort food recipes with a modern twist, your grandmother's recipes, but with fewer ingredients, shorter time to kind of get you in and out of the kitchen. I started blogging in 2013 as a way, I just really wanted to share my, my family recipes and just my love of photography. And I never would imagine that it would have evolved into like a full-time career, but I left my corporate job in 2017 and I've been doing it ever since.
That's amazing. And isn't it wild to think that you've been at this for over a decade now?
Yes, absolutely.
Where did all the time go? But congratulations, that you're able to do this full time. And for that amount of time, going on 7 years, 8 years with that, that's a huge accomplishment. So congrats. So as we can all see in here, we have a wealth of knowledge joining us today. And in terms of my expertise on the influencer creator economy side of things, I have a food website called The Butter Half and used to do food content creation, and started as a lifestyle blog actually in 2009, 2010. So going on almost 15 years on that end, and then started Tastemaker in 2017, which our goal is really to advocate and empower creators, bloggers, and really the industry at large. So I get the unique position to come from it at that side now. So we work with brands on Tastemaker side of things, but also from the influencer side. So we have a nice, I think, range of points of view. So this is going to be a great conversation. And then in terms of housekeeping for those who are here live, we would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. So please drop what brand you're from, where you're tuning in from. And then if you have any questions specifically, drop them now, and we will get to those at the end of this conversation. We'll save the last 10 minutes because we only have an hour together, and it's going to go by quickly, as it always does. So with that, we're going to get into this first series of questions, which is really about setting the foundation for long-term partnerships. So Britney, I'm going to direct this first question to you. As someone who's worked with various brands over the years, and if you guys aren't following either of them, they create beautiful work. Encourage you to go follow them on Instagram specifically, and they'll drop their information later. But You have worked with some incredible brands. I love seeing the concepts you come up with. So, what do you think are the key attributes of a successful, long lasting brand influencer partnership?
Firstly, thank you so much. That is such a compliment, and I really appreciate it because, as you know, a lot of work goes into generating content. I think that there are many factors in play when it comes to establishing long-term partnerships. I think the first is, does the brand have the budget, or are they looking for just a quick reel or a specific campaign or product launch? And then it's back to business as usual. However, if the brand comes to you and says, we'd like to partner with you over the next year, I think the key to establishing a good relationship is having true, authentic alignment with the brand and whatever it is that you're showcasing to your reader. Do you actually love the product? Because there are things that come through in your content when it just comes to just saying, hey, you should buy this, or, having genuine enthusiasm about, the product, or whatever specific launch or project that they're coming to you to advertise essentially. And also, is this something that will resonate with your audience? Again, because that goes back to, will this align with what I'm trying to portray to my readers, and still creating trust with them so that they'll trust me and then in turn buy your product,
Mhm.
or subscribe to whatever it is that you're pushing, or are coming to me to you know amplify.
Yeah.
I also think that another key is having clear communication with the brand on deliverables, periodically checking in, asking for feedback. A lot of times we submit work and we leave it in their hands. They come back with their edits, we post. Um, but I think we can also be a bit more conscientious in saying, did you like it? Was there anything that I could do differently? So that you can establish an open line of communication, and also set expectations on both sides. Um,
Mhm.
in the case that the brand does in fact reach out and they just want to work on one project together, you can try pitching them after the initial project has been submitted, and use your metrics from that project to propel that into more work. You can say, hey, this campaign really resonated with my audience. They love the recipe, or using said product in this recipe, and then provide the metrics to back it up and clearly, state the type of work that you're looking for. Um, do you want an additional 3 reels, or
Mhm.
even use national holidays to parlay that into additional work as well?
Yeah, those are really great ideas. And I really agree with that element of asking for feedback and keeping that an open conversation, because I think that is a huge missed opportunity because both parties are busy. And I know that brands a lot of times have a lot of clients and projects they're working on, and that can get lost in the shuffle. But I think that's so important. LaKita, I feel like this is a good, foundational question. So would love to hear your thoughts or any follow-up um, thoughts to that.
I think just as Brittany covered, for me, it's also the same with that strong brand alignment. So I'm more likely to consider, an extended partnership, like if the brand's values, their products, and their users like really align closely with my content and my community. So for example, if the brand genuinely complements my food blog style, my mission, and my community's interests, then it just feels like more of a natural fit for me. That would be a great pairing. And the other thing for me is like really flexibility and creativity in the collaboration. So I really appreciate when brands encourage creativity and flexibility in how I can just feature their products. It allows, especially if they're like allowing me to add my own unique twist, similar to how recently I worked with an Asian food brand. And of course, I do comfort food. I don't really share Asian food with my community, but we were able to come up with some really fun way to put comfort food with an Asian twist, and they were just really fun and creative, and it really showcased how the product could be used in a new way. So I feel like, it also helps me to be able to create consistent, fresh, relevant, and engaging content that just really resonates with my community. And, because of that, I'm going to be more open to a long-term partnership.
Yeah, and I think the conversations we've had with a lot of creators and influencers, that's the big takeaway is flexibility
Mm.
part of the process. Don't try to micromanage it too much, because then you're not going to have results that work for anybody, because it's not authentic to the creator voice. So that's great. So LaKita, this next question will direct to you. When a brand approaches you for a holiday or seasonal campaign, since we are in the thick of Q4 right now, we want to, talk a little bit about this. What makes you more inclined to consider extending that partnership beyond just Q4 into the new year? Because historically, I think sometimes brands get tracked and they have that one track mind into holiday campaign only. This is what we're doing. And then you never hear from them again. So what makes you more inclined to consider extending that?
Yeah, definitely. Again, like I said, if there's brand alignment and if they allow me to just be more creative with the process, I think that's where I would really want to, have a long-term partnership with that brand. If it works for my community, like long-term past the holidays is, that's very important.
Mhm. Yeah. Brittany, what advice would you give to brands when it comes to approaching influencers with long-term interactions rather than one-off projects? And do you have any examples of that?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's very important for brands to start off with a thoughtful approach. As food bloggers, bloggers in general, anybody in the digital space, we get emails daily. Can we work with you? I have a new product. We'd like to send you something for free. Tons of emails, whether they're real or not, is sometimes how you start, how you simply say, hi, Brittany, hi, LaKita. um, I have a product. I really want to work with you on displaying this product in a great way. However, I think we always get emails that say, hi, um, someone else's name, insert here. And then they have their template, and it's like you can read it and you're just like, okay, delete, and that's just not how anybody wants to be approached. Although this is a digital space, we are real human beings. And I think we want to be addressed as such. My advice would be to simply be personal, set clear expectations, be honest about budget. And this is not to say you have to immediately say, I'm looking for X amount of money, or the budget for this project is X amount of money. But I think if there's any sort of dialogue past the initial email, budget is something that should be discussed, because let's be clear, this is a business, and we want to make this sustainable for
Mhm.
both parties. I want to display your work in a genuine and beautiful way, but I also have to continue to make this sustainable so that I can continue to do this, during the day-to-day life. Goals. I want to be like LaKita when I grow up. Um, but I think it's also important to provide timelines, as well as, how long it's going to take to review certain things. Um, the type of work that they're looking for, just to be very clear in setting expectations and communicating well.
Mhm. Yeah. LaKita, what advice do you have for brands approaching influencers and bloggers?
I would say to understand the influencers like brand and their audience. So it's really important for brands to take the time to know like the influencers' content, their audience, and what are their values. So I would say like approaching them with a clear understanding of how your brand aligns. It really makes a positive impression, and I feel like it really sets the foundation, a strong foundation out the gate. I would also say communicate long-term, vision early. So from the onset, letting the influencer know that you're interested in more than just a one-off project.
Mhm.
You can share your goals for the partnership and why you see them as a good fit and outline the potential future collaboration ideas. I think that this transparency really helps to build trust and interest with the influencer, which of course the number one thing I would say, it's most important to invest in building the relationship. So like having regular communication, feedback, and just even little small gestures like I'm touching bases with you, or if you're following each other on LinkedIn, hey, I saw you celebrated a huge milestone. Like
Mhm.
those things can really go a long way in building a solid, long-lasting relationship. And then it allows the influencer to feel like valued and respected, and they're just much more likely to prioritize those partnerships and really just go above and beyond.
I love that. And I think that is so important. I think that's the big thing that we preach all the time too, is it's about relationships and feeling valued. And that's just life skill across the board. I would love to
Mhm.
know if either of you have any examples. You don't have to obviously name names, but of the best approach you've ever had from a brand. Like what did that look like? That's an off-script question. Sorry.
It's fine. I think for me, it was just like the brand took interest in me. So
Mm,
with them following me on social media and commenting on just regular everything, everyday things I was posting, commenting on my stories, and just kind of building that relationship. So, it just kind of had them on my radar from like the very beginning. And it just let me know that they were just interested in me and not just contacting me for the sake of having a partnership. So it really goes back to that relationship building. I think that's really, really like key.
yeah. Like they
Yeah.
actually take time and to invest in you and
Yes.
follow you and be like, this is the right partner for us because you can feel that. What are you gonna say, Brittany?
Oh, I was just going to say to LaKita's point, the commenting on social media on your posts, actually having conversations with you. And it also helps if I've also, and posted their product in my stories to show that I too am a fan of the product, and want to show it in the best light, and just going from there, because again, that relationship is critical to working well together over the term of the contract. So yeah,
Mhm.
building a relationship is key.
Yeah. And so we have had the opportunity to do a panel on the fancy food show stage. And we're going to be co-locating with them this January. And so we were talking all about influencer partnerships, and it was really interesting to hear from the brand perspective when they were talking about we to they were like, we get nervous to approach creators and influencers. Like, what if they don't like our product, or what if they like don't have time for us? So I think that's a good reminder, is hearing that from Brittany and LaKita, to be like, like we as creators and influencer want to hear from you. We want you to be engaging with us. Because I think sometimes there's a little bit of hesitance between both parties. And it's
Mhm.
just a good reminder to be like, we're all here to share our love of food, and we all have aligned goals and interests. So yeah,
That's
I think.
actually really fascinating because I
Mhm.
never thought from their perspective that they
Mhm.
would be nervous to contact us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I,
Yeah.
I always get caught up in pitching, and I'm like, are
Mhm.
they going to respond? What if they see my page and they're like, that's not my style? So
Mhm.
to hear that is kind of, I will say, it kind of refreshing in a way
Yeah. Yeah.
to know that it's mutual.
Yeah. Yeah. We all
Yeah.
just need to like relax a little and be like, hey, we are aligned. We want the
Yeah.
same, we all want to succeed and share food. Yeah. I think
Sure.
it's refreshing for sure. That's a good
And
way to.
also, I'll say, don't think that your product isn't a good fit, because you will be surprised at what the influencer can come up with. Like I said, I do comfort food, but I've partnered with an Asian food brand. I've even partnered with toothpaste. So, you
Mhm.
know, don't
Oh,
don't just like cancel yourself out. You will be surprised at how they can be very creative and come up with a way to incorporate your product.
Mhm.
ooh, that's good advice. Yes. I love all these ideas. Okay, so we are going to shift gears and talk about Q4 more specifically in detail, because that's where we're at. So this is really about leveraging Q4 and holiday content as a launch pad. So Brittany, many brands prioritize holiday content in Q4, like we've talked about, but a lot of times, right, you hear from them. Um, and like that's where all their ad dollars are. So how can they make the most of this time to lay the groundwork for an ongoing relationship? Like, what do you think are specific things that they should be doing, that makes like those campaigns easier for you, so that you understand like, hey, this is the brand I know I want to work with because they have their ducks in a row. What do you look for?
I again, clear communication is always key. Clear feedback, and just kind of setting the road by which, for instance, providing timelines is huge for me. Um, that way, I know what I need to be doing, when it's due, how long it's going to take for you to get back to me. A lot of times, when you are in the beginning phase of setting up a project or a campaign or something collaborative, there's tons of communication. Everybody's having a great time, just kind of, spitballing what could be and drafting this and, getting excited about ideas. Then it comes to the content creation aspect of things, and things kind of go dark. Then you submit the content and you're like, did they get it? Did they like it? I really hope that it's in line with what they had seen for this project, and what I could provide given the work that I've already drafted and posted to my own page. And so again, just setting that real expectation, clear communication, and also just following up on your end of whatever it is that you should be providing. If I'm using a product and you're shipping it to me, did you ship it on time? If we were supposed to be paid 50% upfront, did that come through? Um, just making sure that you are meeting your end of the bargain so that I can also do the same as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because I think there, we hear a lot of feedback too about just how, even from the get-go, sometimes like the contract, like how is that working? What does that look
Mhm.
like? What do you prefer in terms of, and LaKita, I think you can also answer this too, but what do you prefer in terms of like that first initial stage of contract? Do you have a contract that you use, or do you prefer the brand to provide that, or is that on a case-by-case basis?
I think it's on a case by case basis. I do have a contract that I use,
Mhm.
um, and sometimes I use both. If there's something that I feel is lacking in the template that they send me, I will say, hey, this is just, for my comfort. I'd like you to review this and sign for my terms as well. And I have yet to encounter a brand that refuses to do so, which is great. But there are things in a contract that I feel are necessary to have, and if it's missing from their template, then I want to make sure that I'm covered on my side as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Mhm.
I'm the
LaKita.
same way. For me, it's like a case by case. I do have a contract that I can use, but if I feel like their contract covers everything, I'm fine with that. Sometimes I might have to make some additions or change some things around, but it's really on a case by case basis. Luckily for me, in my long career, I've only had like one situation where we just couldn't make the contract work. So, it's really just on a, case by case basis.
Yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of times too, in terms of like laying that framework and for successful long-term partnerships, for me, I've always seen that process will say a lot about, I think, how reliable a brand is.
Yes.
Like you said, if it's taking them forever, if it's really unclear communication, or just it feels a little off. I've noticed that if it starts that way, there's usually going to follow that same kind of cadence with it. So I do
Yeah.
think for brands, it's important to make sure that, you are treating this with the respect and time and energy that it deserves.
Yeah,
So
I've also encountered, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, sure. I've also encountered some brands that after, everything's been ironed out, they'll ask for more work
Mm,
and don't want to provide any sort of compensation to do so. And that kind of puts the creator in a tough spot, because it's like, I want to work with you and I want to make this happen, but it, you're asking for free work, and this is not something that is just, I what is it, snap my fingers and, click my heels together and voila, you know, beautiful content is generated. And so that also is a red flag for me.
yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, me as well. I think, once we've decided on terms and the contract has been signed, the next phase is going into creating that content. So when a brand wants to make changes after, we've come to terms, for me, it's just we have to do a new contract. That's how I've kind of approached that. We have to kind of dissolve the current partnership, and then we just have to like do something new or do a separate contract. But yeah, that's when things kind of get
Yeah.
a little
It's funny.
dicey. It gets funny. And then, we have to, most of us are small businesses. So, it's either we're working by ourselves or we're working with a small team. So we have
Mhm.
to bring a legal person in to, kind of get involved with that. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then it kind of also chips away at like my enthusiasm for the project. And it makes me feel a bit like the brand is a bit disorganized. I understand that things change a lot, and I get that, but like, budgets are changing, trends are constantly changing, and brands and creators alike are trying to stay up on trends and stay relevant. But if it's kind of a bit all over the place, it kind of just tacks down at my enthusiasm to complete that project.
Yeah, I agree. I think a way that I've kind of been able to like navigate through that is like drawing out like the negotiation phase. So it's like, I want to make sure that you get everything that you want. I want to get
Mhm.
everything that I want. Let's not be so quick to just, here's the contract, sign it. Let's like go through everything and make sure that everything is being covered. And I have found that that has been very helpful.
That's really good
So I
That's
would
advice.
really
encourage
smart.
brands not to really rush,
Mhm.
creators and influencers through that negotiation phase. Just make sure everything's covered.
Yeah,
Hmm.
like the pace for that. That's actually really good advice. And not advice that I've heard. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
that's very helpful. LaKita, I would love to hear if you can share any examples from your past experiences since you've been doing this full time since 2017 on how Q4 specifically offers a unique opportunity for you as an influencer in the brand to build trust and rapport. Do you have an experience where you started a partnership out of Q4 and it took off into a long-term partnership?
I actually have. I think that Q4 is, it's just an ideal time for influencers and brands to collaborate. Because people are just, everyone wants holiday inspiration and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do for the holidays. And it's a very unique situation where the partnership, the influencers can incorporate those products into their seasonal content. I know for me, the way I was able to kind of transition a Q4 partnership into a long-term partnership was with like a spice company.
Mhm.
And we did this little fun project where I shared like one of my grandmother's recipes. She has a cake that she always made every year for Christmas. My mother, turned to make it every Christmas holiday. And then, of course, I started making it for my family. And I was able to incorporate, that recipe and our tradition and show how the cake was made. But we also were able to do something where we packaged the cake and shipped it to my son that was attending college in a different state. He played football, so he wasn't able to get home for the holidays. And we were able to like just showcase on stories him opening that. And, my community got to see how that was. And it kind of sparked them ideas into ways they could make, homemade goods and gift them to people, during the holidays. But of course, that was able to kind of transition into quarter 1 because it was a spice brand. So we're also able to showcase like it's quarter 1, your food has changed. You may not be doing as much comfort food, but how can these spices also help you get like dinner on a Wednesday?
Mhm.
So, it just was a really nice, like long-term partnership. And I feel like my community got used to me using those spices and
Yeah,
so long that I don't even think I think they would look at me sideways if I came out with a new spice.
that's amazing though. And I think like
That is
those are the
awesome.
success stories, right? Of like you told such an emotional, incredible story. Like I want to watch the video of your son winning this cake that's been passed down. That's incredible. And I think
Yeah.
those are the best way. I am so sorry, everybody, but my computer cord fell out, and I need to plug it in real fast.
Oh,
But I would love to hear any experiences that you have on that front, if you have anything to share.
I'm sorry, what was that? Did I miss
Oh,
that?
did you hear what I said? I said, Brittany, do you have anything to
Oh,
share on that front too in your own personal experiences in
I
that?
don't have a touching story like that. I think that is amazing that you could capture that and work the product in there at the same time. That is so cool. And I think that's how you really get that true authentic brand alignment. I think naturally anything festive during Q4 is going to catch everyone's eyes. Gingerbread cookies, easy decorating tips, how to make your holiday table look beautiful. But the trends are constantly changing throughout the year. And with people coming out with new ideas almost daily. I think last year it was butter boards. This year it was like anything with cottage cheese.
Mm.
So just staying abreast of what's trending at the time is always going to be helpful in translating Q4 ideas into, year-round work. Something I think that is often overlooked though is brands should lean into gift guides for the holidays. I have yet to be approached for, to get a product on my gift guide. However, these guides get traffic year round, and that those metrics could be used to translate work into working together for Easter or game day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. I mean, any holiday that you can really think of, because these are high traffic times for us. It lives on our blog, so it's never going to go away, and that just creates a really good um, turnaround for both them and me at the same time. So everybody wins. So I think that's a
Yeah.
great way to translate Q4 work into, lasting work throughout the year.
Yeah, that's really smart. And I think also we haven't had really any conversations yet in these webinars about brands understanding the calendar year for creators and influencers and like what does our traffic look like. And I think it goes without saying Q4 is one of the best times for influencers and bloggers, specifically on websites, just with all that holiday traffic like you were saying. But I think that's a really interesting thing to consider gift guides year round, and then identifying, that I think creators have this unique position that we get to create evergreen content, but also seasonal content that performs well throughout the year, which is why I think it's so important for brands to be investing in influencer marketing
Mhm,
because not just Q4. Yes, it is a heightened time, but there's an opportunity to have a ton of impressions and page views and really just those key KPIs of brand awareness and
mhm,
seeing all that. So I think that's a really good call out.
mhm.
Lakita, do you have thoughts about any insights into holiday themed content that performs well or trends that you see going into Q4 and beyond?
I think anything that just like invokes like that nostalgia, so like really leveraging those vintage inspired elements, I think they really just, shine during the holiday. And I think that like with early shopping, I don't think brands take advantage of like early shopping and deals highlights like before the holidays, getting kind of a little ahead of that because I think consumers are starting like their holiday shopping like earlier and earlier. And, it's like it just almost feels like a missed opportunity that you could be like partnering with someone on content that highlights your early deals or promotions and just really like capture attention and drive that engagement. And of course, always, the DIY and the personalized gifts, I think, featuring a do-it-yourself project or a personalized gift idea, it is just like so popular and many consumers love like unique and just heartfelt gift ideas.
Mhm.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really, really good advice. And I think that that's like a really big missed opportunity, I think, for a lot of creators too, of like in terms of content they're making, how much can you be doing in that in your own blog? Especially here, we're so food focused on just recipes only, but that's a good like roundup idea for creators as well.
Yeah.
Um, so Lakita, we're going to move on to best practices because I know we've kind of interspersed this conversation of best practices within all these conversations, but specifically, I think talking about the do's and do nots. So Lakita, what are some of the biggest mistakes you see brands make when working with influencers? Aside from, not letting them have creative freedom, do you have any like specific examples of like what not to do clearly?
I do definitely, as well as some solutions that may help. The biggest one I think is focusing solely on reach over fit. I think
Mm,
that brands often like they prioritize the influencer's follower count over their like alignment with the brand's values and their target audience. And I think that this just really leads to low engagement, lack of creativity, or just the content that just really feels inauthentic.
mhm,
And I think it's important for brands to like focus on the influencers whose like their style, their content, and their audience really just match your brand, even if their follower count is smaller, isn't as big as you would hope.
mhm,
Second thing I would say, which is my biggest thing, is micromanaging the content creation process. So like being overly strict and having, with the creative guidelines and It just really stifles the influencer's authenticity and it makes the partnership feel forced. And, people can feel that. They can feel that and they can smell it a mile away when you're not being real. So I think it's really important for brands to give influencers like the freedom to present their brand in a unique way, but also a unique way that kind of also weaves in that key messaging that they're wanting to cover as well. And then, of course, as we kind of, drill down here, the most important thing is, having that clear communication. So, I know that brands can sometimes fail to provide clear guidelines and expectations up front. And of course, this leads to confusion or misaligned content. So I think it's really important for the brand to set those like clear objectives, make the deadlines clear and just the guidelines like right out the gate when we're like I said, when we're doing that initial, talking about doing the project. I think it's really important to get ahead of that in the beginning and then just to maintain that open communication like throughout the whole process.
Yeah, yeah, those are really good pieces of advice. Brittany, do you have anything to add to that that popped out in your mind thinking about it?
Yeah, I think so. One, again, I agree with everything LaKita said. And another thing that I will add to that is when I submit content
Mhm.
for review and um, I can tell that a brand has not actually read what I wrote, and they'll say this is missing, or can you edit this to say this, and it does not align with anything that was actually in the submission. So it's like I just spent a week drafting this, and like you didn't read even just 2 paragraphs into what you asked me to write about your product. And so that thought and care, it kind of just goes out the window. You can tell that you kind of feel like you're just a number.
Yeah.
And so I guess the solution to that would be actually please comb through the content with a, what is it? Something.
Fine tooth comb.
Thank you. Fine tooth
That right? Oh
comb.
my God, I don't
Yes.
even know if that's right.
Yes,
But
that's correct. Because we spent a lot of time doing it, and to kind of get feedback that is not applicable to what was submitted is kind of a pain in the side. So
Mhm.
yeah, that would
Yeah,
be my addition to it.
I agree with that. And I think, it's been a while since I've created content. But when brands would come and just say, here's the key messaging, and you absolutely have to write these words. And I understand if there's like a cute campaign slogan, right? It's a case by case basis, everything's the same. But when it's like these paragraphs have to say this, and you're like, that's not how I sound. That's not how I
Yeah.
talk. It's not,
Yeah.
yeah, with my readers and my audience. So I echo that. I just think having the trust in the creator, like we're hiring you for a reason because we like your voice, we like your playful approach. And I think
Mhm.
that's also like the joy of influencer and creator marketing is you get kind of that fun brand experience that's not your traditional stuffy, ad placement or whatnot. It's real. And I think like
Sure.
that's a piece of it, right?
Yeah, you're essentially paying for the authenticity of it. And if you don't want that, then maybe this is not a good fit, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah.
that's a good
Because I
point.
know that they could afford to hire a team to do that kind of thing, but you come to a creator for their voice and their own creative take on things. So
Yeah,
let them do it basically.
for sure. So,
Hmm.
Brittany, I know you've talked a lot about this, and I think this piggybacks well onto like the creative freedom.
Hmm.
Uh, I think every creator has like their own aesthetic and their image. And I think, I'm familiar with your work in understanding that like when I see something that comes across my feed, I'm like, oh, that's Brittany's. Like you have a very specific aesthetic, and I know you've worked really hard to refine that and develop that. So what should brands understand about allowing space for like aesthetic creative freedom? Because I think we've talked about, maybe the messaging behind it and what that looks like if you're making videos, but specifically, I think talking about branding guidelines for how things look. Do you have any examples of if you've run into that or in partnerships, like what people were looking for?
Yeah, I think that it can be a little tricky,
Mhm.
especially if you have something in mind while the brand has something else that they're hoping for. One thing that I do like to do is draft up a couple ideas in my head that I think would be a good fit for that specific project before I get started on working on content. And this allows me to come up with my own ideas
Mhm.
and stick to my own creative process while still showcasing the product in the best light. Something that brands should understand about, allowing space for authentic content creation is that creators aren't robots and they have to be realistic with expectations. I understand that there are times when you have quick turnarounds, but asking someone on a Friday to deliver on a Monday is, oftentimes unrealistic. But from a stylistic perspective, it's important for brands to know that the kind of work a blogger typically provides is something that's in their media kit. So if they're looking for something that's light and bright, and my style is dark and moody, perhaps it's not the best fit. And don't waste your own time in reaching out to a blogger who has one aesthetic and you're looking for something else. I think you should probably stick to content creators who already are kind of aligning closer to what you want your project to look like.
Mhm.
Because if that specific blogger generates content that is not what you wanted in your head, and they submit that and they're proud of it, and you're like, yeah, you need to redo that again because it's not working for us, then everybody's kind of a bit unhappy. They have to do it again, and then you have to wait even longer to use that content. So again, from a stylistic perspective, I think it's really important to just stay aligned with what you want, and to actually do your research into what the blogger's aesthetic is to make sure that, you know, that gives you an idea of how the project itself will turn out. So,
Mhm.
mhm.
LaKita, you have any thoughts to add to that?
No, I would totally agree with everything Brittany just said. I think it all goes back to like having that initial contact, maybe, paying attention to what the influencer is doing and already and see how that can kind of translate how the brand can kind of fit into their style and, the content that they're already creating, if it really works, if it's like even in alignment at the
Mhm.
from the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We have a couple questions here in the chat, and for anybody who's here live, please drop your questions here because you have live experts who can give you your answers to your burning questions. This is very valuable time. Candace is, by way of introduction, the CEO of Tastemaker and is over our sponsorship. She's the queen of brand partnerships and sponsorships. She couldn't join us in person today, but she's here in the chat and she has some really good questions and insights into this. So she's wondering, can you please discuss the benefits to brands for evergreen blog content versus more short-lived social media only content, especially when considering connecting Q4 to Q1 and beyond? I think that's a really good question, Candace. So, LaKita, what are your thoughts?
I think it goes back to like, kind of what I was saying earlier with the Spice brand. It was a Q4, but now I think that that's like the only spice I pretty much use. So I think it's all about building that relationship and how you can incorporate your product into this influencer's overall life and just everything that they're creating. Or if it's a product that they're already using, seeing how you can translate that from being, just a one-off to an evergreen, because it's from a brand standpoint, it seems like it would be more advantageous for that evergreen content because, that has the higher likelihood of translating into sales for the brand. And, for our community, they learn to recognize that brand and, be like, oh, okay, I know LaKita uses this. So when they're in the store, they're more likely to pick it up and grab it because they've built a long-term relationship with me. They know how I am. So, that trust is already established. So I think that it's more important to build that like evergreen content, than just that Q4 content. I think a lot of times we think about Q4 and there's so much holiday content that's being created and everyone wants to kind of get in on that on the influencer side as well as the brand side. and I get it, but it's like we have, we still create content beyond Q4. So what's a way that you can kind of get in on what, that influencer is doing, Q1, Q2, Q3, and how can you position your product as the main thing for that influencer and their audience? Like that's really important.
Brittany, do you have any?
Yeah, I actually have to agree with that. I think that just from a fiscal perspective, it makes more sense to invest in evergreen content because it's content that's constantly getting traffic throughout the year. I could post it anytime to my social media to bring attention to it. For instance, if it's a blog post and it's something like French toast, that's something people are making every, it doesn't matter if it's a holiday or not. Someone, people want to make French toast. Another point is if it ranks well on Google, that's a very high volume keyword. And, that's going to be constantly getting clicks on any given day throughout the year, whether it be Christmas, Hanukkah, Easter or whatever. It could be just any Sunday in January, and folks like, I think I want to make French toast. And then they see that I use, I don't know, a specific flour for that French toast or eggs or brown sugar. And they'll say, oh, well, wow, maybe, the next time I go to the grocery store, I'm going to buy it, or I'm going to click on the link that takes me to the brand's website and I'm going to purchase it from there, or just, it raises awareness of the brand as well. So it makes the most sense. Like, are there things in Q4 that people are specifically looking for? Absolutely. I think brands bring in the majority of their sales during Q4, but I don't think that the remaining quarter should be ignored either.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think like this just underscores again the importance of allocating your budget dollars in your marketing departments as brands. And you, as whoever's listening to this, I mean, even if you're not the final decision maker, but really advocating to your team and to your leadership of being like, this is a place to invest dollars because like we said, and we're outlining here, there's a lot of value year round and you're getting fresh eyeballs. I mean, this is how people are consuming content. I'm getting my master's degree and doing my thesis on the politics of the creator economy. And it's just been so interesting to see just like the shift in this industry here and how it's projected. The creator economy is projected to be worth, $500 billion by 2027, right? So like brands, advertisers, all these people are investing $500 billion, in the next few years into this. So I think that really just shows how important these partnerships are. So I just really wanted to call that out for brands who are understanding, do we invest in this? Is it worth our time? Is it worth the ROI? All of these different metrics you're looking for. The answer is yes. So Sam has a question about affiliate sales, which I think this is an interesting conversation to have these last few minutes and to hear your perspective, LaKita and Brittany. In terms of compensation, they're saying, how do you consider affiliate sales percentages? And so I think to maybe make this question make more sense, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on affiliate compensation. Do you use affiliates within your content? But how do you also approach that when a brand comes to you and says, hey, we can just give you affiliate commission, but we can't pay your rates. So that's kind of two questions, but I would love to just get your thoughts on that conversation with affiliates versus, paid content.
I actually have pretty strong opinions on this one. I don't do affiliate marketing. And it's something that I do want to get into. I just have not had the time. However, when brands come to me and they would like to um, give me a promo code or a percentage, 15%, I don't know, of my sales, I have to politely decline because I don't find it to be worth my while, especially because we have so many other avenues of income and other brands that do actually want to pay out of, from the get-go when they actually do reach out to you. And it's something that's left solely up to chance. Now, if I had a million followers, that would be a different story. And this is not to undermine where I am right now at all, but I just don't find it to be worth my while as of yet. I don't think that it's something that's worth even trying to um, peddle, because it's just I don't find it to be a worthwhile venture.
Yeah. And I think it also depends on what it is, right? So
Mhm.
Sam, I think like that is a distinction, and my understanding is your steel port knives. And so like that might make sense. Like we also work with ThermoWorks or people who sell grills, right? And so the product itself is worth, that hundreds of thousands of dollars. That percentage of 15% is going to translate better, especially if you can fit it nicely into content. I think for food creators and bloggers specifically, those higher price point affiliate commissions do make more sense. But right, it can be hard when it's like, here's a loaf of bread and I make 3 cents off of it versus here's a beautiful set of knives and I just made $100 commission off of one person purchasing it. But to Brittany's point, I think it does depend on your audience being used to you using affiliate links. I definitely think affiliate marketing is something you have to prepare your audience for and integrate that into your own content. And some people use it, some people don't. So LaKita, following up with all of that information, I'd love to hear your perspective on the affiliate side of things.
I think the main thing is that, offering fair compensation just really just shows respect for the influencer's work. And a lot of times with affiliate marketing, sometimes that's not the case. I think the best way to utilize, or I know I can speak for myself. I've worked with affiliate marketing before, and I'm more like you'll get a yes out of me if I don't have to create new content. If I can I can incorporate it into something I've already done. I can use a link, that's great. But I feel like when I'm reached out to a lot of times for affiliate content, then they want all new content created. And I feel like that's a disservice to the brands that actually pay for, me to partner with them and create. And, it's just not equitable for me. But like I said, I love it. If it's something I've already created, I will usually probably say yes if it works for me. I feel like that's the reason why a lot of influencers utilize like Amazon and all of those kind of affiliate links because they don't really require us to do additional work. It's like a seamless way for us to kind of add those links into something that we've already created or something that we already use. So I love that. And my other issue with affiliate is it's not always like transparent. So I feel like a lot of times it's your website, you control everything. So I don't really know like how many clicks I got, how much money I earned. And I feel like that's kind of, an issue with me. It's not always super transparent. And so, I could have gotten 1,000 clicks. And if you tell me that I only got 50, then I just kind of have to take your word for it. And I don't always feel like, comfortable with that versus like I said with not to bring up like the Amazon affiliate, but I feel like a lot of people use it because they're able to see exactly what people have clicked on and what they bought and where they kind of moved around and used your links. So I think that the transparency is important and not putting so much pressure on the creator to create all new content to get 15% of whatever you're selling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I think I could not have said it better myself. In fact, that was what I was trying to say. But yeah, I agree from like oftentimes when these brands reach out to you and they want to send you something in exchange for affiliate marketing, again, like you said, it's not equitable, and they want fresh, a new reel, do this, and I feel like I have to jump through hoops just to earn pennies on the dollar, and that just, like you said, it's not equitable, and it's not a worthwhile venture, especially when brands are reaching out and they say, "Hey, I want to pay you this um, upfront for you to generate this, the same amount of work." So yeah, I spot on.
And I think too, it's worthwhile to just brands listening who are interested in affiliate marketing, like if you're going to go that route, I think you need to have like a really incredible streamlined affiliate program specifically that people can opt into because the influencer, it makes sense for them. Like I said, ThermoWorks has been one of our longtime partners, and they've done an incredible job because they make an incredible product with their thermometry, but their program is really transparent and they legitimately care about the creators and being like, hey, we want to help you make better content. So if you're going to be using a thermometer, use ours to help your recipes be better. And here is a really great affiliate program, and it's transparent and you have a dashboard, and it's a really, really great resource as supplemental income. And I think that's the best way to think of affiliate marketing when you're working with influencers. So yeah, don't just throw it at them hoping something will stick, but make sure that you've done your due diligence to make it a worthwhile program and mutually beneficial for everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's a really good place for us to land. Unless there's any last questions that anyone has, you can throw it in the chat. But we just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today here at Tastemaker. Hopefully you've been able to see that we really have a genuine interest in pushing the growth of the creator economy forward and just advocating and legitimizing it as it continues to grow, which is so exciting to see. And we know that it definitely takes influencers and brands, like we were saying, in those mutually beneficial win-win situations and doing the work together. So if you are a brand that's listening today and you're interested in joining us for Tastemaker Conference 2025, we'll have 500 top food creators and bloggers joining us in Las Vegas. We're co-locating with the Fancy Food Show as well. It's going to be really great. So it's January 19th through the 21st. You can book a call with Candace. Daphne's going to drop a link to her Calendly here. We'll also have that in the show notes for anybody who's listening to this post-production. You can watch the replay. You can get in touch with a member of our team if influencer marketing is something you've really had your eye on and you want to work with these great creators. We have so many people joining us. And then, of course, we want to give a big thank you to Britney and LaKita for taking their time to educate us and offer their insights on influencer marketing education, especially for building those reliable long-term partnerships. So we would love to hear where brands and people can get in touch with you. LaKita, where can we find you?
You can find me at my website, simplylakita.com, and all of my social media handles are at Simply LaKita.
Great. And then, Britney, where can we find you?
Yep. My website is BritneyBreaksBread.com, and my social media is all Britney Breaks Bread.
Perfect. Well, we are so excited to continue growing with all of you. This is an ongoing webinar series, as a reminder, as a trusted resource from the creator perspective and experts themselves. So we'd love for you to subscribe to this series if you're not already a part of it. We have quarterly webinars, and our next one I think will be in January, and we take your feedback, what you would like to hear about and get education from. So looking forward to helping you strategize for the 2025 year. So see you next time. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.